So static modifiers in Java, we can say there are four category, like static variables, static method, static block, and static net state class. Static variable also known as static or class variable, and static method also known as class method. So let's know one by one. So, and the behavior wise, we can define a static modifier with like the we can discuss regarding memory management of the static modifier, accessibility, thread safety, usability, overreadability, initialization, and the serializability. So let's discuss one by one. So suppose we have one class static states Java. So here for static static modifier, we need to declare this variable. It is a static variable, and also we can say it is a class variable. So we can directly access the static variable using class dot variable, like this one. If we want to access it, we can access var one. So it will print the variable. Okay, before that I just comment out this few lines because it will create print. Now if I run this code, it will print the static variable, hello variable. Okay, now one this class variable we also can access if we create the object, because but it is actually not associated with the object, it is associated with the class. So just for example I am saying, so let's say I can also access using st dot var1 here, but actually it is associated with the class, not with the object. Okay, and but here if we have non-static variable, let's say var2 is non-static. So in this case, okay, in this case, like previously we can access using class, we cannot access this variable 2 using class. So in this case it will give you compilation error. So only static variable we can access class dot, like that manner. Now next is static block. So let's say in this static block can just need to declare like static and this block. So in this, in here I actually declare one static block, one non-static block, and another one is the constructor. So let's say if I do nothing, just run the class, it will like load the class in the memory. So in that time it will execute the static block. Let's check. So hello static block. So without doing anything, if I load the class loading time, the static block will be executed, but it will not execute the non-static block. And also please remember, if I have multiple static block here, like let's say it is static block 1 and static block 2, this will be executed in order. Okay, let's say this is let's say this is 2. So here if I run this, it will first print the static block and then static block 2. So we need to know the static block initialization and the execution should be in order always. Next is, let's say if I create the object of this class static test here, what will happen? So in this example I just create the object. Ideally it will first instantiate, like it will first load this class, so it will print this, and then the next part of the non-static block will be executed, and then constructor block. So let's check. So first it will execute the static block, this part, okay, and then it will execute the non-static block, and then it will execute the constructor of the class. Okay, and this non-static also, let's say, should be also, we can say it is in order, because if I have multiple non-static block, then if we run this code, it will be in order. First it will the first one, and then it will second one. Okay, but this will be executed before the constructor call. Now let's say, so this is about static block and non-static block. Now what about static method? So static method also can be considered as a class method. So same thing like mentioned for static variable, we no need to declare, we need to define the object and call the method. We can directly call using class. So here you can directly call this method static m, and it will execute the static block and also the static method, this one. Now in the next part is the static class. Static class also, we can create a static class inside a class. It is called method, it is called a static inner class. So how to call that? So for calling this, like, we can directly just okay, first write this. Now so we can have this kind of thing. Okay, if I run this, it will print inner static. And let's say if I need to instantiate a static class from another class, so I can create another class here, static test2. Let's say I just create this class just to check. So now if I want to instantiate the inner static, how to do that? It will not be firstly accessible, so first I need to make it public. Okay, so here sorry, this is static test dot inner, so equal this. So here also I need to do, so if I make it this also, I think it can be accessible because it is in the same package. So now so how we can access the static class? We need to access it by class, the main class, it is inner static. So the wrapper class dot the inner class, and then like this. If I run this, it will print inner static. So in this case, it actually does not print this static class because it is not loading this particular class, this block. So it is directly loading this. So for that reason, it is print inner static. Now if I just trying to call the test method, in this case let's say static test, I just make it public here, otherwise it will not print. In this particular scenario, I can access the method test m. So here it will first load this class, then static block actually executed, and then it will print the static method print, and then also it will create the inner static class. So for that reason, constructor will be executed. So now overall this is the behavior. Now next is the accessibility that I already mentioned. We can access the static class by using static method or variable using class itself. Now thread safety, the static variable is not thread safe. So if we access the same variable from multiple thread, so it actually, because why it is so, first we need to know the memory management of that. So for that I can show you one picture. So in Java, normally memory are managed in two ways. One is the stack memory, another is the heap memory. So normally all objects that actually created stored in the heap memory, and all the blocks or static part, static variable normally stored in the stack memory here. So for static modifier, the static reference of all the object or the string or variable, everything refer to the stack memory, and it is also memory efficient. So now it is a single reference. Now for thread, let's say for this particular scenario, thread safety, two threads are running. If they want to access the same variable, then it can say that for static variable it is not thread safe. For that reason, for make it thread safe, we need to create the synchronization that will be explained in the thread class. So for now we can say that static variable are not thread safe, but in Java we can have different features like locking, like synchronization, like the different part of concurrency, that by which we can also make the static variable or the object threads externally. Now usability of the static member or static variable, normally for factory or utility class we actually use the static method or API, because like it is if we can check any Java API of math class, like in math this is Java library, there are many methods like absolute and all the method, absolute, extract, and then cell division, decrement, increment, float division. So many methods are present, minimum, maximum. So all the method are static. Also public static final. So let's say random. So if I go to the declaration of that, it is a static method. It will create the random number. So mainly it is when you use the static method, whenever we need some kind of uh, API or utility API, let's say date utils, let's say string utils, let's say any object utils, where we just need to compare or where we need to check the objects, or we can have some kind of utility API to convert number to string, string to number, this kind of API we can have the, or in some cases in a like DB oriented application, where maybe we need to check, like we need to check the name from the PK or the ID. In, let's say we need to identify the student by using the ID, that time we can also use the static method. That will be discussed in the design section later on. So now overreadability. So in previous class, like we explained, like normally static method or we cannot override it, because it is, if I use, if I have the same named method in the parent class and the child class, and also it is static, then we can say it is method not, we cannot say it is method overridden, it is, we can say it is more method hiding. So I think we already discussed that, but I just show you, like here in A class we have a method called test and static method test1. And also in the B class, that extends A, we have same method named with the static modifier test1. In this case we can say this is a method hiding case, okay, because we actually, if I use B dot test1, if I remove this, it will also compile and it will actually call the test1 of A, and if I have this, then it will call the test1 of B. So this is called method hiding. Now next is the initialization that I already explained. The static block will initialize first and also in order. After that the class will be initialized, and then like normal non-static block and then the constructor. And serializability. So normally in terms of Java, we should not serialize the static, because normally if in normal scenario, if we need to serialize the object and also that object contains some static variable or static objects inside that object, and we need to serialize, then we need to mark it as transient. So that also will be declared while we are discussing about the transient modifier. So overall, a static modifier contains this behavior, and if you want to know more, you can comment. We can discuss it in detail later on. Thank you.